There was a wonderful thing I found in your book, and I hadn't really thought of it before, but you say that the Governor-General is analogous, his role is analogous to that of a regent. And as we know, a regent is appointed when the sovereign cannot administer his or her functions. They're sick or there's some reason, like George III, and you have to appoint the next in line. Usually the next in line is the Prince Regent to take over the powers of the king. And you have drawn this wonderful analogy.
Yes, it just seemed natural to me as a clear, easy analogy to explain the fact that in Australia, the Queen exercises no power other than to appoint and arguably, and certainly dismiss the Governor-General. But other than that, all her powers, the powers under Section 61, powers are vested in the Queen, or the monarch, but it says the Queen, but are exercisable by the Governor-General, and there is no caveat that says that under what circumstances the Queen may assume the powers. So the Governor-General is not the Queen's deputy or the monarch's deputy. He's the representative.
He exercises fully the powers of the Crown.
Correct.
He is the Crown.
Exactly.
For the purpose of the executive
in all
powers.
but name, he is the Crown.
Yes. That was Australia is the first of the self-governing colonies, as we were then, in the British Empire to do that. The Canadian Constitution didn't. Normally, a constitution to a colony would vest the powers and the exercise of the powers in the king, and then the king would delegate those under instructions to the governor. So they could always be withdrawn to London, which maintained control over the colonies. The British were very, very liberal in relation to self-government. But they still wanted to reserve that power. But they didn't in relation to Australia. The Australians put that straight in the Constitution, and the British didn't object.
And the thing about that, of course, is that we probably don't want to go down the Republican path, but effectively, any argument that we owe any or that Australia is beholden in any way to Great Britain in a governance sense is false. It's totally exercised by the Governor-General.
Yes, and of course, in addition to that, the Crown has divided so that you have a Crown of the United Kingdom, a Crown of Australia.
We have the Queen of Australia, or we now have the King of Australia. I, to my shame, I once was a Republican, which you might be horrified to hear, but when I was a bit younger, I had the view that the monarchy was anachronistic and that it was bizarre that we should have a foreign person as head of our state. I've since moved right away from that. I think the monarchy is not anachronistic. I think it's an important institution. And I think that, and some people, the Republicans will say they object to swearing allegiance to a foreign person. I don't see the monarchy in that way. The way that I've rationalised my thinking on it is that I think of the Crown. I think of the Crown which is sort of analogous to the Holy Trinity. You have the monarch and you have the Governor-General. They're two sides of the same coin, and the Governor-General exercises the power, and I think of the monarch as the constitutional conscience of the Governor-General, protecting the Westminster tradition and the idea of those individual human rights that we talked about earlier on. So that's the way I've come to understand the role of the monarch in Australia, and how I believe that that the continuation of the monarchy and our relationship to the monarchy is actually critical in this day and age. I think with the era of globalisation and supranational bodies exercising extraordinary power, then I would much rather swear allegiance to King Charles than to Klaus Schwab, for example. And I think it's important.